Admiral Hyon stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, looking at the holographic display of human space. Red dots showed the location of every human ship within 50 light years. There were more than she had hoped for. Status. Report, she ordered. Commander Minjin stepped forward with his datapad. He was young for his rank, but he had proven himself in the border conflicts with the Centauran pirates. We have 67 combat vessels within immediate response range, Admiral. The heavy cruisers Busan Thunder and Incheon Storm are already moving to the rally point. Captain Jin reports his ship will be ready for hyperspace jump in 3 hours. What about the flagship? The Soul's Fury can be ready in 4 hours. All crew members are being recalled from leave. Hyon nodded. The Soul's Fury was humanity's most powerful warship, built after the lessons learned from fighting in the harsh environment of Earth's oceans and the radiation storms around Sol. Its armor could withstand pressures that would crush most alien vessels, and its weapons were designed to punch through the hulls of human warships, the toughest ships in known space. Intelligence report on the Corvan Empire, she continued. Lieutenant Su pulled up a new display. She was the daughter of Korean immigrants who had settled on Mars, and her knowledge of alien cultures was better than most. The Corvans are an insectoid species that evolved on a low-gravity world. They use biotechnology for most of their ships and weapons. Their standard tactic is intimidation followed by overwhelming numbers. How many worlds have they conquered? 47 confirmed, Admiral. All of them were peaceful trading civilizations, with little or no military capability. The Corvans seemed to deliberately target non-aggressive species. Hyon felt her jaw tighten. Bullies. The galaxy was full of predators who picked on the weak because they were too cowardly to fight someone who could fight back. What's their military strength? Unknown exactly, but intelligence estimates at least 300 combat vessels in their main fleet. However, Admiral, these ships are designed for intimidation and planetary bombardment. They have little experience with actual ship-to-ship combat against prepared opponents. Because they only attack defenseless targets, Hyon said grimly. Well, they're about to get an education. Signal all ships, full combat readiness. We leave for Nexus Prime in 4 hours. The command center erupted into controlled activity. Officers began coordinating the largest human fleet movement since the Titan War. Ships scattered across human space received urgent recall orders. On the heavy cruiser Busan Thunder, Captain Jin received his orders while his ship was docked at Europa Station for routine maintenance. Jin was a veteran of the asteroid belt conflicts, a tough man who had earned his rank fighting pirates and smugglers in the dangerous space around Jupiter. Nari, what's our status? He called to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Nari was checking her weapons systems. She had grown up in the underwater cities of Earth's Pacific, where you learned to think quickly or the pressure would kill you. All weapons are operational, Captain. Missile tubes loaded, energy weapons charged. We're ready for whatever these bugs want to throw at us. Tay, how are my engines? Chief Engineer Tay looked up from his control station. He was a small man with oil-stained hands and the kind of practical intelligence that kept ships running in the worst conditions. Engines are running at peak efficiency, sir. These Corvan bioships might be fast, but they'll have to work to keep up with us. Captain Jin looked at the message from Admiral Hyon again. Peaceful aliens under attack by bullies who like to pick on the defenseless. It reminded him of his childhood in the floating cities of Venus, where gang bosses would terrorize anyone who couldn't fight back. Listen up, everyone, he announced to his crew over the ship's communication system. We're going to help some people who can't help themselves. The enemy outnumbers us about 5 to 1, and they've never lost a battle. But they've never fought humans before. They're about to learn why most of the galaxy calls us a restricted species. Similar scenes played out across the human fleet. On the destroyer Daegu Storm, Captain Bora was drilling her crew in combat maneuvers. She had earned her command fighting the rebellious colonies in the Alpha Centauri system, where quick thinking and aggressive tactics had won several impossible battles. Remember, she told her weapons crew, these bioships have living hulls. That means they can heal damage, but it also means they have weak points. Living things need blood flow, nerve connections, breathing systems. Find those weak points and hit them hard. Dr. Su Yung was preparing the medical ships. She had served in the Martian Civil War, where she had learned to treat battle injuries under fire. Her ships were loaded with supplies to treat both human and alien casualties. If the intelligence reports are correct, the Valari have completely different biology from us, she told her medical staff. But pain is universal, and so is fear. We'll figure out how to help them. On Earth, the news of the mission spread quickly. In the underground cities of Seoul, people gathered around public screens to watch the fleet preparations. In the floating cities of New Tokyo, children asked their parents why the space fleet was leaving. The answer was always the same. Someone needs our help. It was a simple concept, but one that most alien species found hard to understand. Humans would risk their lives for complete strangers, even aliens they had never met. It went against the survival instincts that governed most intelligent life. But humans were different. They had evolved in small tribes where protecting the group was more important than personal survival. The weak and the young were defended, by the strong not abandoned to predators. This instinct had grown stronger as humanity spread to the stars. When the colony ships had faced disasters in deep space, other ships had risked everything to rescue them. When the mining stations around Saturn had been attacked by pirates, the space fleet had come running. Now, that instinct was reaching across the galaxy to a species they had never heard of, simply because someone was in trouble. Admiral Hyan boarded. The Soul's fury as the countdown reached its final minutes. The massive ship was a fortress in space, its hull scarred from battles with asteroids, pirates, and the occasional alien raider who thought humanity looked like easy prey. All ships. Report ready, Admiral, Commander Minjin announced. Hyan looked at the display showing the formation of human ships, 67 vessels from massive dreadnoughts to small destroyers, all crewed by humans who had volunteered to risk their lives for strangers. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Hyan to all ships. Today we go to the aid of a species called the Valari. They are peaceful people who have done nothing wrong except exist in the same galaxy as bullies. The Corvan Empire thinks they can destroy whoever they want because no one has ever stopped them. She paused, looking out at the stars where Earth hung like a blue jewel. They have never faced humans before. They don't know that we evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. They don't know that we survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and each other. They don't know that we measure time not in how long we live, but in how much we can accomplish before we die. The channel crackled with the voices of 67 ship captains acknowledging her words. The Corvans are about to learn something that every human child knows. When someone picks on those who can't defend themselves, we show up. We don't ask for payment. We don't negotiate. We don't send diplomatic notes. We show up and we stop them. Admiral Hyan looked at the navigation display showing the course to Nexus Prime. It was a long journey through dangerous space, but every ship was ready. All ships engage hyperdrives. Let's go teach some bullies what happens when they threaten children in front of humans. The space around Earth lit up as 67 human warships disappeared into hyperspace, their destination a world most of them had never heard of, to save a species they knew nothing about. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet orbit around Sol, a blue and green death world that had produced the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Predators who had learned to hunt in packs to protect the innocent and to never back down from a fight. The Corvan Empire was about to discover what that meant. Admiral Thexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the crystal cities of Nexus Prime through the viewing screen. The Corvan Admiral was an impressive figure, even by the standards of his species. His chitinous armor gleamed black and gold, and his forearms moved with the precise coordination of a born warrior. The Corvans had evolved from hive insects on a world with low gravity and thin atmosphere. They were natural predators who had learned early that the weak existed to serve the strong. For 200 years, their empire had grown by conquering peaceful species and turning them into slaves. Report! Thexmore clicked in the harsh language of his people. Sub-Admiral Clix approached, her 6 legs carrying her across the organic bridge of their bioship. The vessel was alive, grown rather than built, its walls pulsing with a slow heartbeat. Through the living metal, nutrients flowed to weapon systems that were part machine, part creature. The prey species continues to broadcast distress calls, Admiral. No one has responded. The Galactic Council has officially marked this system as under Corvin protection. Our claim is recognized. Thexmore's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. It was always the same. The soft species that made up the galactic community would make sad noises about peace and justice, but they would never actually fight for it. They were too comfortable, too afraid of losing what they had. What about their defenses? He asked. Pathetic, Admiral. They have 12 small patrol ships designed for search and rescue, not combat. Their weapons are mining lasers and communications equipment. Our smallest fighter could destroy their entire fleet. Through the viewing screen, Thexmore could see the Volari moving through their crystal cities. They were tall, graceful creatures that seemed to glow with inner light. They would make excellent slaves for the art markets of the Empire. The young ones especially would bring high prices. How long until the deadline? He asked. 2 hours, Admiral. Shall I begin the demonstration bombardment? Thexmore considered this. The Corvins had learned that a few destroyed cities usually made the survivors more cooperative. Fear was an excellent tool for controlling new slave populations. Not yet. Let them suffer in anticipation. Fear makes them more compliant when we begin the harvesting operations. On the planet below, Captain Yuna huddled with the remaining Volari leadership in the deep crystal caves beneath their capital city. The caves had been carved thousands of years ago as shelters from the fierce storms that sometimes swept across their world. Now they served as hiding places from a different kind of storm. Any response to our distress calls? Asked Elder Vel, his ancient form dim with despair. Nothing, Yuna replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The last message we received was from the Altarian Trade Guild. They expressed their sympathy but said they could not risk their commercial interests. Around them, Volari families huddled together in the crystal chambers. Their children, normally bright with curiosity and joy, had dimmed to barely visible glows. The youngest ones didn't understand what was happening, but they could sense the fear of their parents. Perhaps we should surrender, suggested another elder. If we cooperate, maybe they will treat us with some kindness. Yuna had read the intelligence reports on the Corvin Empire. She knew what happened to species that surrendered. The strong were taken as slave laborers. The intelligent ones were kept as servants and technicians. The children. She didn't want to think about what happened to the children. We fight, she said quietly. Even if we cannot win, we fight. Our children deserve to see us try. Above them, the Corvin fleet waited, like vultures around a dying animal. 200 bioships of various sizes floated in perfect formation, their living hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. The largest ships were nearly a kilometer long, their surfaces covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. The Corvins had never lost a battle. Their biotechnology was superior to anything the peaceful species could build, and their warrior culture made them deadly opponents in ship-to-ship combat. Most species surrendered as soon as they saw the Corvin fleet in their skies. But something was different this time. The first sign of trouble came from the outer sensor arrays. Deep space monitoring stations began picking up gravitational distortions at the edge of the system. Admiral, reported the sensor operator, her voice carrying a note of confusion. I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from hyperspace. Multiple contacts moving at... Admiral, these readings can't be correct. Thexmore moved to the sensor station, his clawed feet clicking on the organic deck. What do you mean? The approaching ships are moving at velocities that should tear any vessel apart. The gravitational stress alone should crush them. But the contacts are holding together and maintaining course. How many ships? 67 confirmed contacts, Admiral. Various sizes, but all heavily armored. I've never seen energy signatures like these. Thexmore's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. 67 ships was not a large fleet by Corvin standards, but these energy readings were unusual. Most civilized species built their ships for comfort and efficiency, not for the brutal stresses of high-speed combat. Open a communication channel when they arrive. I'll explain the situation to these newcomers. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a formation that spoke of military precision and long experience. The Soul's Fury led the way, its massive bulk scarred from countless battles. Behind it came cruisers, destroyers, and support ships, all bearing the battle damage of a species that had learned warfare the hard way. Captain Jin aboard the Busan Thunder studied the Corvan fleet through his tactical displays. The bioships were impressive in their alien way, but his experienced eye picked out weaknesses immediately. "Look at those formation patterns," he told his tactical officer Nari. "They're designed for intimidation, not combat effectiveness. See how they cluster around the larger ships? One good attack run could disable half their fleet." Nari nodded, her fingers dancing over her weapon controls. "Their ships are organic, Captain. Living tissue. That means they can heal minor damage, but it also means they have vulnerabilities. Cut the right nerve cluster, and the whole ship goes dead." On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Hyon examined the tactical situation. The Corvan fleet outnumbered them 3-1, but the enemy ships were spread out in a loose formation that prioritized appearance over defensive strength. "Communications, open a channel to the Corvan commander," she ordered. The response came immediately. Admiral Thexmore appeared on the main screen, his insectoid features twisted in what humans might recognize as arrogance. "Unknown vessels," he clicked. "You enter space claimed by the Corvan Empire. I am Admiral Thexmore, commander of the 7th Conquest Fleet. Turn back now or face the consequences." Admiral Hyon studied the alien commander for a moment. She had seen his type before. Bullies who grew strong by preying on the weak who had never faced a real challenge. "This is Admiral Hyon of the Human Defense Fleet," she replied calmly. "We received a distress call from the inhabitants of this world. You have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw your forces and leave this system." Thexmore's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Humans? I have no record of this species in our databases. You dare to threaten the might of the Corvan Empire? We have conquered 47 worlds. Our bioships are invincible." 59 seconds, Jan replied. The Corvan Admiral's compound eyes glittered with anger. No species had ever spoken to him this way. The soft races of the galaxy always begged and pleaded before accepting their fate. "You're either very brave or very stupid, human. Our fleet will tear your primitive ships apart. Your people will make fine additions to our slave markets." 30 seconds. Thexmore looked at his tactical display. The human ships were moving into attack formation, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. His bioships could release paralytic toxins that would disable any crew, and his weapons could punch through the armor of any known vessel. "I will give you one final chance, Admiral. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated as prisoners of war instead of slaves." 10 seconds. Admiral Hyon said calmly. 9, 8, 7. "This is madness," Thexmore clicked. "You cannot hope to defeat us." 3, 2, 1. Admiral Hyon's voice cut across all frequencies as she gave the order that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "All ships weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders do to bullies." The space around Nexus Prime erupted into battle as two very different philosophies of warfare collided. On one side were the Corvans, who had grown strong by conquering the weak. On the other were the humans, who had grown strong by surviving everything their deadly world could throw at them. The Corvans were about to learn the difference between predator and prey, and they were about to discover which category they actually belonged to. The battle began with the Corvans doing what they always did, trying to terrorize their enemies into surrender. Bioships launched waves of living missiles, creatures bred specifically to burrow into enemy vessels and release paralytic toxins that would leave the crew helpless but alive for capture. Admiral Thexmore watched from his flagship as hundreds of his bioweapons streaked toward the human fleet. These creatures had never failed to disable enemy ships. The toxins they carried would paralyze any known nervous system within minutes. "Prepare boarding pods," he ordered Sub-Admiral Clicks. "Once their crews are paralyzed, we'll capture their ships intact. I want to study their technology." But something went wrong. Instead of penetrating the human ships, the bioweapons began exploding in space as the human point defense systems came online. The humans weren't using standard energy weapons, they were using projectile systems that threw thousands of metal fragments into space at incredible speeds. Impossible! Thexmore clicked as his bioweapons were destroyed. What kind of species uses such primitive weapons? On the Busan Thunder, Captain Jin watched the alien bioweapons die in space and smiled grimly. The kind that learned to hunt birds with shotguns, he said to his crew. Tay, give me full power to weapons. Nari, target the largest bioship and aim for what looks like a nerve cluster. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves, using tactics developed from millions of years of predatory evolution. They didn't attack in neat formations like the civilized species of the galaxy. Instead, they spread out and began hunting, each ship captain using their own judgment to find and exploit weaknesses. Captain Bora, aboard the destroyer Daegu Storm, led her squadron in a flanking maneuver that would have been impossible for most species. Her ships accelerated to speeds that generated crushing gravitational forces, then changed direction so quickly that the living hulls of most alien ships would have been torn apart. But human ships were built to survive the crushing depths of Earth's oceans and the radiation storms around Sol. They were designed by a species that had learned engineering by trial and error, where failure meant death. Target their weapon clusters, Bora ordered her gunner. Those organic cannons need blood flow to function. Cut the arteries and they go dead. The human weapons were different from anything the Corvins had faced before. Instead of elegant energy beams or bioweapons, the humans used crude but effective projectile systems. Railguns that fired metal slugs at significant fractions of light speed. Missile systems that carried nuclear warheads. Kinetic impactors that used pure mass and velocity to punch through armor. These were weapons designed by a species that had spent most of its history trying to kill each other with ever more effective tools. The first Corvin bioship to die was one of the smaller cruisers. A human railgun slug punched through its living hull and severed the main nerve trunk that controlled its weapon systems. The ship writhed in space like a wounded animal before going dark. They killed it, Sub-Admiral Clicks reported in shock. Admiral, they actually killed one of our ships. Thexmore could not believe what he was seeing. His bioships were supposed to be invincible. They could heal damage, adapt to new threats, and overwhelm any enemy with superior numbers. But the humans weren't fighting like any enemy the Corvins had faced before. They weren't trying to disable ships for capture. They were trying to kill them as quickly and efficiently as possible. On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Hyan watched the battle unfold with the cold calculation of a predator. The Corvin ships were impressive, but they were designed for intimidation, not warfare. Their formations were too loose, their tactics too predictable. Signal all ships, she ordered. Execute Wolfpack Formation 7. Target their command ships first. The human fleet suddenly changed its attack pattern. Instead of engaging the entire Corvin force, they focused their fire on the largest bioships, the ones most likely to contain the enemy commanders. It was a tactic learned from hunting, in Earth's ancient forests, where killing the pack leader would scatter the rest. The Busan Thunder and 2 other cruisers concentrated their fire on Admiral Thexmore's flagship. Railgun slugs and nuclear missiles slammed into the living hull of the massive bioship, tearing through organic armor that had seemed invincible. Damage report, Thexmore demanded as his ship shuddered under the impact. Main weapon clusters offline, his tactical officer reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. The ship is. It's bleeding, Admiral. Through the gaps in his ship's hull, Thexmore could see the actual blood of his vessel flowing out into space. The humans had targeted the major arteries and nerve clusters with surgical precision. But what shocked him most was the complete lack of fear in the human attacks. The bioships were designed to be terrifying living nightmares that would break the will of any civilized species. The Corvins had bred them specifically to trigger the fear responses of their enemies. But humans seemed immune to fear. They attacked the bioships like they were just another engineering problem to be solved. They studied the weak points, calculated the best angles of attack, and executed their plans with the cold efficiency of natural predators. Sir, the communications officer called out. I'm receiving surrender signals from 12 of our ships. They're requesting permission to withdraw. Thexmore's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Corvan warriors did not surrender. They had never surrendered in 200 years of conquest. But as he watched, more of his bioships went dark. The humans had figured out that the ships were living creatures, and they were targeting them like hunters going after dangerous game. They aimed for nerve clusters, blood vessels, and vital organs with the precision of species that had learned anatomy by cutting up their prey. Captain Jin's voice crackled over the communication system as he coordinated the attack. Remember, these things can heal minor damage, so hit them hard enough to kill them outright. Don't give them time to recover. The human destroyers darted between the larger bioships like sharks, their smaller size allowing them to avoid the worst of the Corvan weapons while they targeted weak points. When a bioship tried to heal damage, human missiles would slam into the repair tissue and prevent regeneration. Dr. Su-young, commanding one of the medical ships, was analyzing the biological structure of the enemy vessels. All ships, this is medical command. The bioships have a central nervous system running along their dorsal ridge. If you can sever that connection, the ship will be paralyzed. The information spread through the human fleet in seconds. Within minutes, 3 more Corvan bioships were floating dead in space, their nervous systems severed by precise railgun strikes. Admiral Thexmore realized with growing horror that his fleet was not just losing, it was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that understood biological warfare better than his own species. The humans were treating his bioships not as invincible war machines, but as large, dangerous animals that needed to be put down. "All ships retreat," he ordered, abandoning the attack on Nexus Prime. "Full speed to the hyperspace jump point." But the humans weren't finished. As the Corvan fleet tried to flee, human ships pursued them, picking off the slower bioships with the relentless efficiency of pack hunters. "This is Admiral Hyan to all Corvan ships," came the cold voice over the communication channels. "You wanted to enslave innocent people. You threatened children. Now you get to learn what happens when bullies meet predators." Of the 200 Corvan bioships that had come to conquer Nexus Prime, only 67 managed to escape into hyperspace. The rest floated dead in the void, their organic hulls torn apart by weapons designed on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. As the surviving Corvan ships fled, Admiral Thexmore sent a priority message back to the Empire. "Avoid the humans. They are not like the other species. They are killers who feel no fear. Mark their territory as forbidden. We cannot fight them." In the crystal caves of Nexus Prime, Captain Yuna and her people felt the vibrations of battle end. Slowly, carefully, they emerged from their shelters to find their world still intact and strange ships in orbit. The Deathworlders had come and they had kept their promise. The crystal cities of Nexus Prime gleamed in the light of 3 suns as human medical ships descended from orbit. Captain Yuna stood in the main plaza, watching the strange vessels land with gentle precision. She had expected conquerors, but these ships moved with careful respect for the delicate crystal structures around them. The first human to step out of the medical ship was Dr. Su-young, a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. Behind her came a team of medics carrying supplies and equipment that looked nothing like the elegant technology of the civilized galaxy. Human technology was crude but effective, built by a species that valued function over form. Their medical scanners were bulky metal boxes instead of elegant crystal devices, but they worked with ruthless efficiency. "Captain Yuna," Dr. Su-young approached with her hands open, a universal gesture of peace that even the Valari understood. "I'm Dr. Su-young from the Human Medical Corps. We're here to help." Yuna stared at the human woman. Up close, the alien looked surprisingly fragile. Her skin was soft, her movements careful and controlled. Nothing about her suggested the terrifying efficiency that had destroyed the Corvan fleet in less than 2 hours. You came," Yuna whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "We sent our message into empty space, hoping someone would hear, but no one ever comes. No one ever helps." "We heard," Dr. Su-young replied simply. "And humans always come when someone calls for help. It's what we do." Behind the doctor, more humans were unloading medical supplies and setting up treatment stations. They worked with the systematic efficiency of a species that had learned to organize quickly in crisis situations. Within minutes, they had established a fully functional field hospital in the Crystal Plaza. Captain Yuna watched in amazement as human medics began treating Valari, who had been injured during the panic. The humans couldn't communicate directly with their patients, but they were gentle and careful, using scanners to understand Valari physiology and adapting their techniques accordingly. "Your people are not what I expected," Yuna said to Dr. Suyong. "What did you expect? Monsters, killers. The way you destroyed the Corvin fleet, we have never seen such violence. In our databases, species like yours are classified as restricted, too dangerous for normal contact." Dr. Suyong looked up at the crystal spires around them, her expression thoughtful. "We are dangerous," she admitted. "We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to fight because we had to, but we also learned something else." "What?" "That strength without purpose is just destruction, that the strong exist to protect the weak, or else we're just animals." Admiral Hyan's shuttle landed in the plaza an hour later. The Admiral stepped out and looked around at the crystal architecture with appreciation. It was beautiful in a way that human cities rarely achieved. Delicate and graceful. Captain Yuna approached the human commander with a mixture of awe and fear. Hyan was not a large woman, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had faced death many times and survived. "Admiral Hyan," Yuna said, attempting the human custom of shaking hands. "I am Captain Yuna of the Valari Defense Corps. On behalf of my people, I thank you for saving our world." "You don't need to thank us," Hyan replied. "You needed help. We provided it. That's how civilized beings behave." "But why? You risked your lives for complete strangers. Your species could have been destroyed fighting the Corvin Empire. Why would you take such a risk for people you've never met?" "Admiral," Hyan looked up at the sky where the debris of Corvin bioships still glittered like dark stars. "Because someone has to stand up to bullies. On our world, we learned that civilizations survive only when the strong protect the weak. If we had ignored your call, we would have been no better than the Corvins." Over the following days, the human fleet remained in orbit while their medical and engineering teams worked with the Valari to repair the damage caused by the Corvin attack. Human engineers studied Valari crystal-growing technology with fascination, while Valari scientists marveled at the brutal efficiency of human designs. Captain Jin, of the Busan Thunder, found himself working closely with Yuna to coordinate the relief efforts. The human captain was surprised by how quickly he developed respect for the Valari commander. "Your people have never fought a war?" he asked during one of their planning sessions. "Never," Yuna replied. "We solve conflicts through discussion and negotiation. Violence is foreign to us. When the Corvins arrived, we had no idea how to respond." Jin nodded thoughtfully. "That's not necessarily a weakness. My people have been fighting wars for thousands of years, and we're very good at it. But sometimes I wonder what we could have accomplished if we had spent all that time and energy on art and philosophy instead. But then who would protect species like mine? That's the question, isn't it? Someone has to be the guardians. Someone has to be willing to fight so that others can live in peace." News of the human intervention spread across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. On dozens of worlds, species that had cowered before the Corvin Empire began to whisper about the Deathworlders who came to help. For the first time in generations, there was hope that someone would stand up to the bullies and predators that terrorized the peaceful civilizations. The Galactic Council, which had officially regretted the loss of Nexus Prime to the Corvin Empire, suddenly reversed their position when they learned that humans had driven off the attackers. Trade delegations were hastily organized, and diplomatic messages flooded human space. But Admiral Hyan was more interested in practical matters. 6 months after the battle, she stood with Captain Yuna on the observation deck of a new space station in orbit around Nexus Prime. The station was a joint human-Valari project, combining human military efficiency with Valari artistic beauty. It served as both a defensive platform and a symbol of cooperation between species. "The Corvin Empire has retreated to their core worlds," Hyan reported. "Our intelligence suggests they've lost face with their subject species. Several worlds have declared independence and there are reports of civil wars in the outer territories. What about other threats? Yuna asked. She now wore the uniform of the newly formed Galactic Defense Alliance, a loose confederation of species that had banded together for mutual protection. The Zephyrian Hive has made some aggressive moves toward the Antares sector, but they backed down when we deployed the Third Fleet to the area. The crystalline hegemony is still raiding shipping lanes, but that's a problem for another day. Yuna looked out at the mixed fleet in orbit. Human warships alongside Valari exploration vessels, Altarian trading ships, and even a few converted Corvan bioships whose crews had defected to the Alliance. Do you think it will work? She asked. This alliance of different species working together? Admiral Hyon smiled, her weathered face showing the lines of someone who had seen too much war but still believed in the possibility of peace. It has to work. The bullies of the galaxy have had it too easy for too long. They've grown fat and lazy, picking on species that couldn't fight back. But now there's an alternative. She gestured toward the fleet. Every ship out there represents a species that decided to stand up instead of backing down. Some of them are warriors like us, others are healers and builders and thinkers, but they all understand the same truth. What truth? That civilization isn't about being civilized. It's about choosing to be civilized even when it would be easier to be savage. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves, even when there's no reward for doing it. A year later, Captain Jin found himself aboard a new class of vessel, a hybrid ship that combined human military technology with Valari crystal growing techniques and Altarian quantum computing. The result was a ship that was both beautiful and deadly, capable of both exploration and defense. His crew was mixed as well. Humans worked alongside Valari, with a few Altarian technicians and even a reformed Corvan engineer who had requested asylum after witnessing human mercy in battle. Captain, reported his new tactical officer, a Valari named Kale, who had learned human military tactics. We're receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. The message says, they're under attack by raiders. Jin looked at the star chart showing the location of the call. Rigel was far from Alliance territory, in a sector where several species were fighting over mining rights. How many ships are we talking about? He asked. Unknown, Captain. But the message mentions civilians under fire and requests immediate assistance. Jin didn't hesitate. Set course for Rigel, maximum speed. Signal the Altarian cruiser Crystal Light and the human destroyer Guangzhou Pride to follow us in. As his hybrid ship jumped into hyperspace, Captain Jin reflected on how much had changed since that first desperate message from Nexus Prime. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, full of predators and bullies who preyed on the weak. But now, there was something new in the darkness between the stars, a voice that answered when the innocent called for help. A fleet that would come running when children hid in caves and feared the death from above. The wrong SOS had reached the Deathworlders, and they had brought something the galaxy had almost forgotten. The promise that someone would always come. When good people needed help. In the crystal cities of Nexus Prime, Valari children played in the plaza where human ships had once landed. The crystal cities of Nexus Prime gleamed like jewels under the purple light of three suns. The tall spires twisted upward in graceful curves, their surfaces reflecting rainbow colors that danced across the peaceful streets below. Yuna walked quickly through the main plaza, her six-fingered hands shaking as she carried the emergency message tablet. The Valari people moved around her with their usual calm grace. Their tall, thin bodies seemed to glow with soft inner light, and their large eyes held the wisdom of a species that had never known war. Children played in the fountain squares while their parents discussed art and philosophy in gentle musical voices. But today was different. Today, fear had come to their world. Yuna reached the communication center and rushed inside. The building was one of the few that looked different from the crystal spires. It was built for function, not beauty, with thick walls and powerful transmitters that could send messages across the stars. Captain, the readings are getting worse, said Kale, one of her communication officers. His usually bright glow had dimmed to almost nothing. The ships in orbit are charging their weapons. We have maybe 6 hours before they attack. Yuna looked at the screen showing the enemy fleet above their world. Hundreds of dark ships hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. They were ugly and brutal, nothing like the elegant vessels the Valari built for trade and exploration. These were the ships of the Corvan Empire. The Corvans were conquerors who moved from world to world, taking what they wanted and enslaving those who survived. They had already destroyed 47 peaceful civilizations. Now they wanted Nexus Prime. "Have we received any response to our distress calls?" Yuna asked, though she already knew the answer. "Nothing, Captain. The Galactic Council says they are sorry, but they cannot help us. The Trade Federation has closed their borders. Even our old friends on Altair have gone silent." Yuna was not surprised. Everyone in the galaxy feared the Corvans. The Empire was too strong, too cruel. No one wanted to make them angry by helping their victims. She moved to the main transmitter, the most powerful one they had. If this could not reach someone willing to help, then nothing could. "Open all frequencies," she ordered. "Emergency power to the transmitter array." The room filled with the hum of energy as the massive transmitter came to life. Lights flickered throughout the building as it drew power from the city's main grid. Yuna put on the headset and began to speak. Her voice was transmitted into space, bouncing from relay to relay, spreading across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. "This is Captain Yuna of the Valari Defense Corps on Nexus Prime. We are a peaceful people under attack by the Corvan Empire. They demand our surrender in 6 hours or they will destroy our world." Her voice trembled as she continued. "We have no weapons, no armies. We are teachers and artists and builders of beautiful things. Our children are hiding in the crystal caves, afraid of the death that comes from above." She paused, looking through the window at her city. In the distance, she could see Valari families moving toward the underground shelters. The crystal spires that had stood for 1,000 years might be dust before the next sunrise. "Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. We do not ask you to fight for us. We only ask that you remember us, that you tell the galaxy what happened here. Do not let our voices be forgotten in the darkness." But even as she spoke the words, hope grew in her heart. She changed her plea, putting all her desperation into her voice. "If there is anyone out there with the strength to stand against evil, please come. Our people are good and kind. We have hurt no one. We deserve to live. Our children deserve to see tomorrow's sunrise." The message went out across space, traveling through the network of relay stations that connected the civilized worlds. Most species that received it felt sad but did nothing. The Corvans were too dangerous to fight. On the water world of Aquatica, the fish-like nautiloids read the message and closed their communication channels. On the desert planet of Pyrrhion, the rock-skinned Terrans marked Nexus Prime as lost in their star charts. The insect-like Zephyrians of the Cloud Cities simply deleted the message from their systems. But something went wrong with one of the relay stations near the edge of the galaxy. The old beacon had been damaged by a meteor storm months ago, and its targeting system was not working correctly. Instead of sending the message to the nearest civilized world, it bounced the signal toward a small, unremarkable system near the galactic rim. The system had only one inhabited planet, a blue and green world that most species had marked as restricted in their databases. It was what the galactic community called a death world, a planet so dangerous that any species evolving there would be too violent and unpredictable for civilized contact. The signal reached a small monitoring station on the moon of this death world. A young human named Day was working the night shift, scanning space for any unusual activity. He was bored and tired, expecting another quiet night of listening to empty static. When the transmission came in, Day almost missed it. The signal was weak and distorted from its long journey, but something in the voice made him sit up and pay attention. He ran the message through the computer's translation system, his eyes growing wide as he understood the words. "Oh no," he whispered. "Someone needs help." Day had never heard of the Valari or Nexus Prime, but he knew desperation when he heard it. The voice on the recording was terrified, but trying to be brave. It reminded him of his little sister when she was scared but trying not to show it. He immediately sent the message to Earth Defense Command, marking it as urgent. Within minutes, his screen lit up with an incoming call from Admiral Hyan herself. The Admiral was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. She had fought in 3 major conflicts and commanded humanity's space fleet for over a decade. When she spoke, people listened. Day, I need you to confirm this message. Is it real? Yes, Admiral. The transmission patterns match known alien technology. Someone out there is about to be attacked and they're asking for help. Admiral Hyan was quiet for a long moment. Day could hear her breathing as she thought about what to do. Admiral, Day said carefully, the message mentions children hiding in caves. They're scared. Something changed in the Admiral's voice. It became harder, more determined. Send me everything you have on this Corvan Empire. I want to know who we're dealing with. We're going to help them? Day asked, surprised. Humanity had always been careful about getting involved in alien conflicts. Day, do you know why most species avoid us? Why they call Earth a death world? Because we're too violent? No. Because we're survivors. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day, and we not only survived, we thrived. We learned to fight not because we wanted to, but because we had to. And along the way, we learned something that most species never figure out. What's that, Admiral? That the strong have a duty to protect the weak. That's what separates civilization from savagery. Admiral Hyan's voice grew cold as ice. These Corvans are about to learn what happens when they threaten innocent people in front of humans. Day smiled as he began preparing the full transmission package. Somewhere across the galaxy, a peaceful species was facing destruction. But help was coming, even if they didn't know it yet. The message that was meant for the civilized galaxy had found the one species that would actually answer it. The Corvans had made a serious mistake. They had threatened children in front of the humans. And humans did not forgive that kind of thing.